Alright, we're live, and if you're watching this, you're probably watching the VOD. Thanks for that. It's been really cool seeing us get up to, well, a lot more subscriptions on YouTube. Apologies while I move the mic around. Hopefully you can hear me. But yeah, so that's nice. They've really picked up in the last couple of months. The number really doesn't do anything for us other than make the number bigger, but it's always nice to see bigger numbers. If you play MMOs, you probably get that. That said, all of the various comments that you guys leave and all of the likes and other stuff, I think has been helping us with a little bit of discoverability. So that's cool. And people are in. Talet, Scruffy Bard, Thirinth, Lasava, Chaz Solo, Bill. What's going on, guys? Welcome, everybody. My gnome has his adventure outfit on right now. It's hot, so he's staying cool. Hey, Chinny D. Ruguru, thank you for the raid. Hello, all of you folks. You just wrapping up? What were you doing before this? Playing something? I didn't check. I didn't see who was playing what before I hopped in here. Hopped in earlier to see who was playing Pantheon. But that was way earlier in the day. I had appointments and stuff, so. But it's cool. It's cool to see some people playing Pantheon. That's encouraging. MMO Pug, what's going on? Dozakar, Chinny D, Cooking Caffeine, Wallabus. Goop Dim Cookies. Hello. Whose corpse is this? Zukin. Ruger, every time I say it, I feel like I'm saying your name wrong. Because whenever I see your name, I think of cougar, which makes me actually think of women of a certain age. And then that kind of throws my brain in one direction. But then I hear Ruger, like, you know, a Ruger P95 or something like that. That throws my brain in a different direction. Rugaru. All right, so I think I was at least minimum pretty firmly in the ballpark when I said it in the past. Louisiana folklore werewolf. I'm gonna have to look that up. Man, Louisiana's wild. I lived in Louisiana. It was one of the first places I lived as a baby. When I was born in Florida. My parents promptly took me to Panama City, Panama. And then to Fort Polk, Louisiana. Boon of the Garu. Oh, that makes sense. And I made it back to Fort Polk at one point when I was in the Army as well for a little training. Little JRTC training. It's called Fort Johnson now? Well, that's a silly name. I'm sure it'll be Fort Polk again within a year. Fabrizio, Matthias, Dark Inside, hello. Hey, Ollie. Didn't know I was originally a Floridian. Oh yeah, I'm very Florida man. My my wife's laughing in the other room right now. I'm super Florida man. I've bounced around so many places that I feel I've adapted. I've taken on all sorts of traits from different places. Did I also have a swamp puppy as a pet? No, but I'm familiar with him. Hey Kenji. Lisava, that makes a lot of sense now. Boon of the Garu now makes sense to me. How many convenience stores have I robbed with an alligator? Using the alligator as a means of robbery or just like hanging out with him? South Texas just had 4 to 6 inches of snow. Missed it? Nope. I still got peoples. I got peoples in Georgia. I've got peoples in Alabama who still own a place in Florida. So I'm dialed into all the southern snow. Freaked everyone out here in Texas. We got snow. We had a couple days of snow in Austin when I lived there a couple times. 2-3 times. I lived on a crazy hill, so if it iced up, I could not take my truck out. I was just there. Free Juice says, Yo Sean, been listening to your old interviews with former EQ devs. Such good stuff, man. Your fondness for the old days makes me even more hyped for Eminem. Hey, thank you. Yeah, I mean, dude, I would love to have more chats with those guys. I think I've just been, I'm sure I could find the time. It's just kind of a pain in the ass to like wrangle people and all that stuff. But it's not that big a pain, I guess. Oliver Smith, Jake. We always called him Jake. I should check in with him. I've been meaning to interview him for a while. Ruger said, ready for my troll SK already? Right on. I will get there. Dude, time's gonna fly by. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, this year's gonna go by too fast. Ollie said, Encrypt, I've been avoiding building the client though. I know I should, so people can access Plane to Meet again. Oh yeah. Excuse me. Speaking of convenience store robberies though, all of us, it's funny. I got my job when I was in the army in DC. I got my job at the nightclub there because a kid that I was briefly in college with in Alabama, who I think may have originally been from Florida, after I bailed on college, he was still there. He robbed a convenience store, one of the guys that I would hang out and drink with instead of doing schoolwork. And then he randomly, I was going to see a show at a big club in DC, and he was like, "Hey Sean, what's up?" And I'm like, "Huh?" And it was that dude working at the club, and he got me and my roommate jobs at the club in DC when we were in the army. So it wasn't an alligator. It was probably the shotgun that he was always waving around, but kind of a link. Dark Inside says we have weather warning in Canada because it's 15 Monday, negative 15. Monday is going to hit negative 30. For some reason, I keep thinking you're in England, not in Canada. I like the hat. Can we get a tinfoil hat in the game? So I would absolutely buy one. Buy into the game. Nothing like a gnome wearing a tinfoil hat. If that's what it takes to get you to play the game. Hey, Keith. Frankenbean says, I saw Eminem gif of a gnome riding an ogre like a mount. Is that just witchcraft or an actual thing? I mean, we promised it, right? That's why I said. Look, here, I'll find a... Can my goblin ride on your troll? If you got 2 accounts, it may wind up happening. We haven't. So gnome ogre has always just been. It's always been a thing we've joked about and discussed. So we've always wanted to do it. But we haven't talked about, like, can other small races sit on an ogre? Can a goblin sit on a troll? I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, we're kind of freaky. It's so freaky. I don't know. If you didn't go to our Discord and look in MMORPG updates, and you missed all sorts of stuff. We got we got a wolf riding a wolf. We got this in action. Ishuitari, was ist los? Hey, Justin Beard. Moin Moin. Was hat er gesagt? Moin Sean, wie geht's du, alter Halunke? Jasmin, was ist ein alter Halunke? Hunky American, is that what that means? I see what you're saying, Ishuatari. Leg Locker, that is a hell of a name. Scoundrel, okay. Did I miss anybody else? Darius, XV, Gucci Gouda, Adichie. What else we got? Oh, we got this killer. This is ready to go. We can just ship this. Dude, it's funny, like, I saw Leg Locker and I wanted to immediately reply with homie's name. And I'm spacing out on his name so bad, but I can picture him. He's got no neck. American in Brazil. When I think of Leglocks, I immediately think of him. Why am I spacing on his name? It's like on the tip of my tongue. As soon as I saw your name, I was like, I was gonna make a joke about it, but hey. What else we got? I mean, okay, Gordon Ryan, true. This is pre-Gordon Ryan. Pre-Gordon Ryan. Like 10 years ago. Built like a stump. What else we got here? We got... Oh man, if you heard the name, you'd know it. Not any of Eddie Bravo's guys. Not any of Danaher's guys. Oh gosh. We got this going on. That's going to be the most expensive mount, isn't it? Yeah. Nah, Daddy. Oh, it's going to drive me crazy now. What's up, Rex? I've got a Dean Lister. Thank you. Good, I can stop looking. I was completely distracted. Dean Lister, dude. Dean Lister. Whew, thank you. Yeah, so mounts are coming along. That's an interesting way to fly with a bat. Yeah, I mean, our level of maturity behind the scenes, naturally a couple of us had to make some jokes. Warning, if anybody's ever thinking about potentially being on our team, you've got to realize the kind of humor that we have. There's a lot of like 15-year-old boy humor on the team. So naturally we were looking at that one and going, you know, will there be free nuts on this flight? Of course. Is this kind of game development too open? Are we going too open? I've heard other teams talk about open game development. We're doing open game development. We're very open. Our kimono is fully open. And that's okay. Have we ever heard of secrets? We know secrets, but we don't really keep secrets. The bidet instead of the bidet, the Sava. Little potty humor never hurt anyone. That's my belief. And since I think I might actually be the closest thing to HR in the company, and we're pretty good. I'm just running around here right now, waiting for folks to cycle in. If you're new to the stream, welcome. We are working on Monsters and Memories. If you're absolutely new here and don't know anything about the project, I recommend you hopping in our Discord and checking out our website. It's been a long time since I've actually run that line. I just assume all of you are you've been around for a while now. Hey, Liz Biscuits. What's up, John? So what I'm doing is I'm waiting for everybody to get in here so that then I can, I don't know. I was thinking about showing you guys that haven't seen it before, unless you're like, nah, we've already seen that. That's no big deal. Think about like setting up a couple mud actions so you can kind of see sort of the simplicity of our setup. And yeah, kind of see what we can do there. Could do that, could work on some other stuff. The last 2 streams have been playtest streams. We'll do more playtests soon. And yeah. You guys let me know what you want to see. Internal playtest, sorry. But we'll do more playtests before it's all over with. We've got a bunch of stuff going in right now, so it probably would not be too bad an idea to have a playtest one of these weeks or months. Breck said there's a lot of in-depth discussion about the game in Discord. I've read a fair amount of EverQuesters are going to try it out. I've been spreading the word in all my lower gut groups and anybody who makes my friends this. Right on, appreciate it, buddy. Death Rider said, most of the peeps I speak to on P99 already know about it. They're just waiting. Right on. No, it's good. That is good. Discord is about 11,000 people now. Yeah, not a bad size for a scrappy little team like us. Wallaby said would love a mud demo. There was a good discussion around them in Discord a few days back. Yeah, that's what triggered it. I saw folks talking about mud actions in the Discord, and it's good. It's good timing. It's actually one of the side jobs that our editor, the wonderful Eric, as he has time, we've got sort of a parallel track of stuff, or just even flavor ones going in, right? Little descriptions and stuff. So Ruguru said, that's what she said, not about size. See? There we go. That's the spirit of it. Our average age of our community members about 35. And we found that 35 is like prime 15-year-old humor age. Like right in there. 35, 40. As we look at some of our older community members, you know, once you start getting into your 40s and your 50s, then sometimes that humor age goes down a little bit. But yeah. Lasava said, I would love to see a highly detailed look description depending on where you're standing, but that may be wishful thinking. Help me understand what you mean by that, and I'll let you know how wishful it is. Brex is 35. Ruguru is 40. Justin Beard's 43 in July. I am 50 in 2 months. Was watching ZBrush finish up the Wood Elf Farmers the other night. The amount of love and detail going into it are attributed to how good this of a game this is going to be. You know what? And I hope you told him that. When you guys, if you guys have a chance to watch the other streams, please do. And everybody's always asking like, hey, how can we support the game or whatever? Support those guys. I've renounced my affiliate, but you know, every little bit helps with those guys. The dudes that I'd say the bulk of our guys that are streaming are also freelancers, so you know, a little support doesn't hurt. Let's see, let's go in here. So while we're playing around, I'm just going to go ahead and pop in here now. You spoke to him for a bit. Nice. Nice. It's always nice when people come in and talk to you when you're streaming. Take some of the burden off trying to think of everything yourself. So we've got a mud action tool. Darius says, I'm 29, but I've been 29 for like 16 years. It makes sense. It makes sense that that could happen. You try to support Zukin, but he doesn't like feet pics. That's what he says. That's what he says on stream. The Sava says, if you're standing outside of Noob Yard, you're standing outside the outskirts of Night Harbor, outside the Western Gate. To the east are the walls of the city. To the west, ventures further out into Shaded Dune. I wonder how that would... See, if a newbie knew to hit look, that would definitely help some of the folks that get confused. I don't know that that's bad. Like, I don't know that. I'm trying to think. Like, is that too much? Too many specifics? So Lasaba, that's where my brain went, but I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that that is a bad thing at all. I'll definitely. You know what? Let me. I always say I'll have to keep that in mind, and then other shit pops up and I forget it. That's why I like to write notes during stream. So here. All right, immortalized. So if we go to Fallen Past, show refresh, we have this little tool here. One of our internal tools that we've made to basically read. Well, this base it pulls in the data from the database into Unity so that we can visualize. Put a snippet of it in Brainstorm too? Right on. Thanks, Sean. Now let me see something. I'm just flying around in scene view. That's why you're seeing the interface and stuff. Come over here. Go up to Fallen Past. Enable zone spawners. Oh, you know what? I know why I'm not seeing them. That it's not a zone spawner thing. It's not a zone spawner thing. It's because I've got my gizmos, my doohickeys turned off here. What's up, Darden? I don't think it's too much info when you think about mud games. You can go east or west kind of verbiage. Yeah. You know what? I think you just put the finger on. My brain was going, yeah, but that sounds so familiar. And I think that's exactly it. I think that's a nice homage, if anything, to the whole point of these guys. Oh my gosh. Do you know how many NPCs are in this zone? This was meant to be a small zone. This was just meant to be like a little zone that this was just meant to be a little quickie zone. I had blocked it out as like a little quickie zone. This was meant to be a small zone, is said often. Yes, this is also true. I think we're starting to break, starting to embrace it. Dude, even the micro zones, even our little like, hey, let's make a 2-room zone turn into like half a dungeon. But yeah, so anyways, I think we're up. It's like over 800 NPCs in here now. Well, I'm looking at 832 right there, actually. This is a microzone, Sean said calmly, before losing his mind. But hey, just think when this is one region. Just think when all the biomes and all the regions and the full map is fleshed out. In theory, you could roll up a new race class combo, log in and play again, and probably see a ton of shit that you never saw the first time through, or the second time through, or the third time through. But I think that's the business model, right? Like, that's the idea. Like, give you an immense amount of stuff to see in our world, and replay and replay and replay, while also maintaining your ultra old, venerable veteran character of badassness. But yeah, anyways, this is what it looks like when gizmo culling is pushed out a bit. I noticed that I was adding some NPCs in here because, hey, now we've got a stable and stuff in here. I was like, I need to add some more NPCs. And then I looked and was like, looking for the next sort of available NPC ID slots in this zone. It's like, really? Over 800? Okay. Okay. I guess that happened. Is this a town area? This is a little way station, right? So if you go this way, you're going into Vale of Zentar, right? And you're heading north towards Keeper's Bite and then into Evershade Weald, the Wood Elf area. Here, you go this way and you're going towards Shaded Dunes and then Night Harbor. So it's a little way station here. You can stop over. We'll be curious to see how players wind up using this. Some of the way we've got stuff set up. So we've got a stable here. We got ourselves a shady vendor over here. Yeah, so we'll play around with it, like, and see how much this maybe can turn into a little bit of a social area, depending on your faction, of course. For stuff that's going on in here. We'll see how it gets utilized. So it's not a town. It's just a couple of buildings, a little stopover. Death Rider says, one thing I realized that has been lost in MMOs and Pantheon, the mobs all have their little areas and barely move. In EQ, they path all over the place. You can follow a mob on their trail for 10 or 15 minutes. I hope to see more of that in M&M. Makes the world feel more alive. This zone already has some of that, believe it or not. There's a guy who paths from all the way over here, and guys, it is longer than it looks, all the way down through in there to check on some people that are working for him and back. He was the one that was terrifying us in the last Wednesday's playtest. I believe Felix does that. We've got a guy who also makes the rounds in here. It's not a super huge path. We've got some like really long ass paths though. They broke initially, and Ollie, it helped us discover a bug. We have paths so long that they went through multiple spheres of influence. So that's why they stopped working, because the code had not accounted for paths that would actually go through multiple spheres of influence. So yeah, we'll definitely be having that. Any thoughts on where the new tunnel for trading will be? No clue. No clue. I think that is something that you guys are going to figure out before we do. We'll encourage it in different areas, but I think something like that is going to wind up being fairly organic. We'll encourage it with certain things, likely. You know, because you'll want to be near banks and this and that. But I mean, EC wasn't near a bank, so. Hey, Maze. What's up, Olgo? So what were we doing? Oh, yeah. I was going to click this on so that we have even more crap on our screen. Oof. But let's turn that crap off. That's our pathing mesh. That's why Drenal used North Freeport. North Freeport's it was a tight little area. It was underutilized in the game. I'm hoping stuff like player-owned shops and things like that make it so that maybe, you know, and some of our other decisions make it so that our towns or cities feel a little more lived in. Because I think of an area like, you know, North Freeport, and I'm like, man, why isn't this just humming with social activity? All right, so what was I doing? Oh, I was talking about mud action because the Slava had that good idea as well. So I think we're good. I think we can even, I could probably drop this other stuff, but it's okay to have here for now. You know what I should do? I should turn off stuff like turn off A-star path so I don't have to worry about next time it comes up. Camera's always in the damn way. Where's the... What's your official name? No. You. Keith, don't you put that evil on me. You give me performance anxiety. This music is from the game score. Those of you that aren't checking out our playlist, you can listen to our music all the time. It's right there. Play it if you like it. Tell your friends. All this camera looking stuff. There we go. I don't want to see any of it, man. I don't need it. I don't need it for what I do. Later on, there'll be some camera thing I need to do. I'll be like, why can't I can't find... Ollie, what happened? I can't find my camera stuff. Without a doubt, invariably. What's up, Drew? All right. So we're here. And let me bring back this guy here. Let me look in the database and kind of see, because anytime I just create new, sometimes it creates it with maybe like a number I don't want it to have, an ID I don't want it to have or whatever. So I like to have a little bit more control over that. So let me go to zone mode action. So basically, the stuff that you'll see in here when I'm messing with this, and then over here it'll be in the inspector as well, is everything that we do. It always, the vast majority of what we mess with is going back into our database, right? Like just our relational DB structure. And it's a real simple system, right? Most of what we do, even if it looks complex, is relatively simple. And early on in the setup, we were going for simplicity, just huge scalability, right? Because we're already at a point where if I look here, 5,800 items. If I go into NPCs, 4,300 NPCs. If I had to think about like zone spawns, show all, almost 6,500 zone spawns, zone spawn commands, show all, 11,000. Right, so the whole idea was we want something. I've worked with a number of systems over the years, a number of setups, and honestly, in thinking back, it was like the oldest, clunkiest, well, not clunkiest to be honest, the oldest, simplest setup that I've worked in was probably my favorite. And it was just because, I mean, you know, if you know SQL, or if you can ask Chat GPT about SQL, like I have to do every once in a while, you can do a ton of stuff. Like Nick's able to come in here and just run a query and get a ton of shit done. It's, for me, I just grew up, my earliest days of being a game designer was just, you know, in the land of, hey, I have an NPC here and I want to make a new NPC, so I'm going to be like, making a new rat man. All right, so we've got a Screevar. I'm gonna just, what level do I want him to be? It doesn't matter. I'll just find one that's in the ballpark, and then I'll go, all right, right click, duplicate row with keys. I'll go and make the adjustments that I need to them. Click off, boom, I've got a rat man, right? Like, and what we've done then is we've integrated some visualization to go along with that as needed, right? And we've done a little, we've played with some tools in the past. Keith's done some stuff for us. I think we may wind up doing some more, you know, whether it be web-based or whatever, tooling in the future to make it easier to kind of look at NPCs at a glance or whatever, you know, kind of a continuation on those early things that Keith had done in game. But for the most part, we're able to just work in the table, even if it is a little, you know, clunky, but it's easy enough if you know what you're messing with to come in here and just be like, I want to mess with these values. So you uncheck that, you click the ones you want, blah, blah, blah. Right. So again, simplicity, speed, and then most of our systems are interconnected in a way where it's just like, all right, the stuff that we can do with volumes are things that we can also do with NPC quests, are things that we can do with switches, or right. And so if we're able to trigger certain types of events, or we're able to perform certain actions within them, like it's fairly universal now. So the way that mud actions work are they're their own volume, but then they can be linked to other volumes, and they've got the bulk of the capability that, you know, if we can have some sort of event occur, like be triggered based on like an NPC quest, then I'm fairly certain we'll also be able to do it with our mud actions, right? And over time, what we did was we layered in more and more in the mud actions, so that mud actions, not only much like all our other volumes and systems, can be aware of like conditionals, so they can be aware of, you know, the essentially the state of the world, what weather event is going on, or what lunar cycle are we in, or what day is it, or what time is it, or what season is it, all that other shit. But they can also look and find things like, and there's a test case of this in Night Harbor, where you go in and you do a look, and it'll give you one description. And if you go in and do a look and you have CMViz on, it'll give you a different description, right? Because the mud actions can also look and see what items you have in your possession, what items you're holding, what buffs you have on, things like that, right? So, but it's like it's a really dead simple setup. You know, it sounds fancy, but it's not even something that's scripted. It's just strictly you know, it's just checking these conditions. So let me make one really quick. Liz said I was the company SQL dude for 13 years or so. Yeah, but you're pretty big brained. What's up, Simon? Sean can be sometimes so still that I think the stream froze. It used to be my job to be very, very motionless. When I was in the army, I spent years being motionless. Scruffy Bard, 5,805 items. Are those all unique? Yeah. We're just getting started, right? So that was one of the things we talked about immediately. Was I've worked on MMO teams where they didn't really think about the fact that at some point they were going to have tens and tens of thousands of records to deal with. And, you know, I've worked on teams where you're in an MMO and it's like the data is kind of nested in this weird directory structure that's then associated with, like, you know, prefabs or objects in game. It just all sorts of weird shit that's just, it's hard to find stuff. And like, I love that everything's just in tables here and it's so easy to just boom, find it. All right, so back on task. Mud action. Mud actions are, again, relatively simple, but you know, they can do a ton. And our mud actions are essentially set up where, you know, it's got a zone that it's associated with, got an ID, it's got a type for each one of our mud action types. So is it a look, inspect? Is it you know, is it a rub? Is it a pool? It's got, is it a sphere, right? They're typically happening within a volume. So is it a sphere or is it a box volume? What's its position? What's its scale? Yeah. rotation, of course. What is the prompt? And the prompt is where we are able to, like in this case, define that you have to have this item in order for it to execute. So a prompt is, you know, it can be like on inspect, it's probably going to be, what are you looking, sorry, I'm in reply. This should be in prompt. So it may be this phrase, inscription. So like inspect inscription. It could be multiple phrases, right? So any one of these words will trigger it. And then typically it's gonna trigger a T-mote, not an emote. Emote everybody would hear. T-mote only you, the person triggering it, will hear. And it looks like we've got some placeholders going in here already. Oh, yeah. Actually, I think I put those in a while back. I need to go back and finish those. And it can, because it can do skill checks, so it can look to see, do you have certain skills? Because it may only be visible to you if you have, like, for example, a high survivalist skill, or if you've got a high perception skill, or, you know, we defined a skill requirement like the number in there. Condition, is it day, is it night, is it raining? And then just a little comment field for us to be able to keep track of them, right? So pretty simple, but we can link it to other stuff from there, and it winds up, you know, it winds up being pretty powerful. You don't need big complex systems to make cool shit. Well, and I'm not going to say you, maybe you do, but we don't need big complex systems to make cool shit. Just with the simple systems that we have, the biggest challenge is not what can the system do, it's defining, like, basically applying the focus to making stuff with it. We've already got enough functionality that we can do a ton of cool shit, right? So now it's a matter of like getting it in. And I think that happens a lot in game development. We get these big, like, crazy ideas in our head about these elaborate systems. And even while doing so, because it takes a while, hey, Zukin, takes a while, hey, Checks, to get them in, then we're dreaming about all the cool stuff we're going to do. Then we get it in, and then it's like, oh man, we don't really even have enough time to do all this cool stuff, right? So for us, it was, how do we get our tools up and running fast and then just start making stuff? And a lot of times, the simple stuff has just as big an effect as something that would have been 10 times more elaborate. So anyway, on that note, let me... All right, so I just hit create new. It's a sphere. Let's make it a box. What is used to connect Unity to the database? Nerd magic. I don't know Zarkin in detail. Sorry. You guys may realize at some point, I am actually not a very technical person. Just because I've been hanging out with people that are very smart for the bulk of my adult life, like half my life now, has been spent making video games. I honestly, I don't know the correct answer to that. If Keith's in here, he could tell you. He's got a big brain. Like, some sort of nerd magic. Nerd magic would have been a good company name. That will be our umbrella. Nerd Magic LLC. That'll be one of our shell companies, Zukin. Write that down. Don't let the IRS know. First, what's going on, buddy? Even First could probably even tell you. But I'm not a... Dude, you know what my phone is? I have a Samsung S10 that I won't let go of. I saw they're up to like S25 now. S10's doing fine by me so far. Good value, especially since I got that in my work laptop. I bought them from my last company for $300. Nerd magic terrifies you as a concept. Too often I get called in as the security team, and it's like written in VBA as an Excel macro for a critical company process. When people say things like that, Dozakar, talk to Ali. I like to sit in and watch some of the nerd conversations, and trust me, there are some very wild, interesting nerd conversations going on, right? We've got some really cool friends in the community that help us out with some stuff, and just there's always something interesting going on. I appreciate it. I say nerd magic in a loving way, but I say nerd magic because it is not my responsibility to know how that works. One of the things I learned quickly once I became a producer in 2011 was, and I knew it before I became a producer. It's why I became a producer. Is the biggest part of my job is to ensure that the team has the right people. That's a huge part of being a producer. I mean, depending on how you define producer at your company or whatever. But in most cases, being a producer means ensuring that, why is this guy a stable hand? He's not supposed to be a stable hand. Interesting. Let's fix that real quick while I'm looking at it. You should be a stable master. Boom. Come over here, go over there. Just finding the right smart people, man. I see what I did here. We'll fix that real quick. This has been acting a little funky lately. I have to get a note to Keith. I don't think he's around. FB underscore stable master. Thank you. These guys. I would say anybody aspiring to be a producer, though, you will need to know enough to know whether or not, whether or not the guys that you have doing different things are in the right ballpark. Burrow said $250 generic Samsung phone isn't much worse compute power than a $1,750 S25. Kind of funny. Yeah, I looked them up. My wife and I were talking about it because she's like, I really want to get you a new phone. Your phone's gonna break, yeah. And I think I'll get a new phone just for that reason. So there's some redundancy there. But we were comparing the S10 to the S25, and it really didn't seem like it was that much different. What is typically the relationship between a producer and an art director? Zukin asked. I'm assuming you mean hierarchical or like the business relationship, and not necessarily like do they get along? Clarify your question and I will answer, Zukin. I guess when it comes to decision making, like I guess the producer is more running business things then, so art director. Yeah, typically. So first of all, anything I say with regards to team structure or the definition of roles will ultimately not be 100% valid because every team can potentially do something differently. And so the definition of producer changes team to team, and their ultimate sort of responsibilities will change team to team. And it, you know, a lot of times though, it's kind of a question of does the team have producers and then like a senior producer, executive producers? There are teams that are big enough that will, you know, maybe have an entire cadre of different producers. But ultimately, if you're looking at a producer as the person who's ultimately responsible for the project, in most cases, I think it's fair to say that the various directors will report up through the producer. At my last company, they actually had all of tech reporting up through the CTO, right? And so you would have basically tech had its own hierarchy, which ran parallel to production. And under the producer, you basically had everybody else, art and design, etc. Right? So it comes down to how your company's structured. But in most cases, you're going to have a project. That project is going to have at least one person that is the sort of central point of authority, and they are ultimately going to make the call. Now, could that producer then say, I'm going to override the art director on an art-related topic? In most cases, or at least I'd say in many cases, yes. Because ultimately, the producer is responsible for the project. So in the past, I've been, like when I was a senior producer on a team, that team all fell under me. There are support services and things like that, like customer service, which were not on the team, but even like community management was on the team. So the structure of that team ultimately was my decision, and I was responsible for the like full profit and loss sheet, right? So how I structured the team and then how I, ran the team was ultimately on me. But then if I ran the team in a way or structured the team in a way where the team all quit or we stopped getting shit done, we didn't deliver, we didn't hit our various goals, then ultimately I reported up to the CEO, and the CEO would wonder why I'm screwing things up, right? Because all of that ultimately comes down to sort of business terms, and it would trickle up to the CEO in that we are either missing our targets, we are missing our profitability per person, right? Because some teams are just looked at as what's your profitability per person. So, you know, the difference between a 30-person team and a 50-person team, if they're generating the same revenue, would be viewed, right? There's an obvious difference there. Right, and there may be certain metrics that when you come into the role that you're given, like you need to hit, 60% plus profitability per team member, and you need to generate X amount of revenue per quarter, per month. You need to generate X amount of profit. So all that stuff. Now, in smaller studios, smaller teams, you may have a producer that's pretty hands-on. We don't do a lot of we don't really have titles in our company, right? I think the closest thing we have to titles are Zukin is the primary over characters, right? So ultimately, Zukin is the go-to person when it comes to characters, and as much as possible. And I'm going to say it that way because it's never 100% perfect, as Zukin would tell you. As much as possible, Zukin gets to make sort of the final decision on different topics, right? But there's always going to be a bit of sort of managing various stakeholders and trying to keep everybody as happy as possible, I think. Now, on a bigger team, you may have a producer and you may have a game director. And so then the producer is really much more about running the business, and the game director is more about, you know, ensuring that there's a solid vision to the game and that the you know that vision's being actualized. And then conflicts between those two will be typically resolved by somebody above them, right? Like in a scenario like that, I would have to imagine that there's then either a senior producer or an executive producer or a studio head that winds up being the person responsible for ultimately saying yes or no. Does that help, Zukin? Before you guys got on the team, we actually spoke to an art director. There's a pretty experienced guy who a lot of his background was in kind of relevant subject matter. He'd worked on fantasy games in the past. They're very old school. You know, art style is not wildly different from what we've been shooting for, any of that. So yeah, he is somebody I didn't know personally, but had worked at a company I worked at previously. He got recommended. So one of the first people we talked to outside of like, you know, Nick, Ali, and I, and Bunny was on the team, but like one of the first people we talked to was an art director. And he had a very specific idea for what he wanted to do with the art direction. Like we were like, hey, it'd be cool because then you'll, you know, like you'd work with the three of us, and we'd figure out the art, and this is what we'd like to see, and here's a bunch of ref, and here's what we've been talking about, and all that stuff. And he started firing back some things that were not that, and we were like, nah, well, this isn't our style. And I just don't think it looks right. You know, I mean, Zukin, you've dealt with us, right? So we just gave the normal feedback that we always give, and he was like, no, but what about, you know, like I'd rather do this. And we're like, no, could you please change this exactly, you know, to be like this? And so within a span of like a few days of just working with this guy, he fired back like you know, I'm not a junior artist. I don't need you to tell me how to do art. And we were like, alrighty, well, I guess this isn't gonna be the place for you because we got a lot of thoughts. And so, yeah, I think, you know, at the end of the day, the thing I've learned in working on games is, everybody's always ultimately working for someone. And all of us, when we get in the industry, or all of us ultimately kind of want to make the game we want to make. And you know, the best we can kind of hope for is to be in a situation where we're able to do a bit of that. But it's not a very common thing, right? And that's why even like working on this game, I was just early in the discussions is like, hey, I got a bunch of silly ideas and stuff. Like, can we do this company in a way where I can finally, after, you know, working on games all these years, maybe do some of this shit, and not have to worry about being told no, because it's stuff that I've wanted to do for a long time. And that was a talk that I had to have early on, you know, with Nick and Ollie as well. But I think hopefully the company feels like one, because obviously I'm not making all the decisions, right? Like hopefully the company feels like one where the team feels like they've been able to come in and do stuff that they want to do, right? Like, what was the comment earlier? I like Valve's setup where the structure is mostly flat. Seems tough to pull off though. Yeah, it's very tough to pull off. Everybody wants to be in that structure until you're in one, and then you realize like a lot of people don't realize the amount of like responsibility that's on them then. The difficulty of communication, right? It's not easy. You know, there are a lot of times where somebody has to be told no. You know, you try to minimize that as much as possible, but there are definitely times where it's like, hey, sorry, but no, let's do it this other way, or let's just do this, right? I've seen people try to do flat structures, and it winds up being a team that spends most of its time in meetings, putting post-its on walls, on whiteboards, doing a lot of post-its, a lot of getting everybody's opinion and then trying to boil that down into something reasonable, then trying to blow that back out to some, right? Like just fucking meeting after meeting after discussion after discussion after meeting. And then at some point, some of the people that are like, oh man, I've always wanted to work in one of these really super flat Valve environments starts to go, can someone just tell us what to do so we can get this shit done now? So Zukin, kind of back to your question again, though. I would say if we were to ever have an art director, that individual ultimately, for right or wrong, would be working at the behest of the partners. All right. So a lot of blabbing while I do something that's relatively simple, which is we've got this mud action here. Typically, it only takes as long as it takes you to kind of stretch a volume out over an area, which when you're not blabbing like me, should only take like a minute or two. So you can go ahead and write the prompt and reply in here, and then save that out. Or if you prefer to work in a database, you can just comment it and say, way station stable, right? Its ID is 13, and so let's see what we find in here. I think Thunderdome structure would be fun. Producer is the promoter, referee. All disagreements are settled by champions. Each quarter, art director, content director, lead programmer battle determine priorities. I mean, it's kind of like that on some teams. It's not physical battle. Occasionally that gets called into question whether or not it should be, but the producer on EverQuest when I was there, after Brad and Butler and those guys left to start Sigil, the producer that took over, Robert Pfister, he was really like he just wanted the team to run properly. He wanted to make sure the business part of things was taken care of, that we hit our dates, things were scheduled, but he didn't give a shit about the subject matter. He didn't have any preference on the subject matter at all. He didn't play EverQuest. And so the way he ran most things was he would, when a decision needed to be made, he would go like, design nerd, art nerd, tech nerd, come here. And You know, a lot of times for the design nerd part of it, since we're doing a lot of expansions, as the expansion lead slash content lead, but whatever you want to call it, but as expansion lead, that would be me. You know, the actual design director, Rich, was you know, often just trying to deal with keeping everything running, you know, live situation, class balance, everything else. And then I got to head up a lot of what was going on the design side with expansions. And so we would just all go in, or Rich would come in as well, or it would be sort of the directors and the leads, and we'd go into a meeting and then we'd argue it out, right? So Zarkin said to be fair, the artist guy was probably just jaded from having crappy coworkers tell him what to do. I once had a non-artist tell the artist that the shade of green we were using was incorrect, and we had to go back and correct everything. Meanwhile, he had 2 poorly calibrated monitors that showed two different greens, both of which displayed incorrectly. Yeah, I mean, it could be, but the thing is, why would we start a company just to basically give this guy that we don't know completely free reign on the visual direction of it? Like, makes 0 sense. And the thing is, if you're super experienced, if you've been doing this for 15, 20, 25 years, and you're not aware of that, sort of not aware that that's probably going to be the case, then I would have concerns with working with somebody that kind of couldn't read the room like that, right? How'd you get Unity to run while you're editing Zone? I either edit game mode. Hey, Bill. Do you want to ask that in here? It is interesting how important personality of employees plays a huge part in the success of business. I think it's probably, I don't know. Does it seem like an overstatement if I said that personality of the employees and their ability to work together is 80% of whether or not the business is going to be successful, especially in game development? It might be a overstatement. I don't know. Thurark, hello. All right. So again, as you can tell, setting up a mud action, not super complex, not super hard to do. The only reason why it's taken this long is I cannot shut the F up. So let me go into the right table here, because that also helps. Zone mud action. Oh, was I in there? Okay, actually I was. So let's go. Cool. And number 13 right there. Look. So, I mean, we can continue to edit it over here. Prompt. Actually, it doesn't need a prompt because it's a look. It just needs a T-mote. Let's see. Huge for sure. True of most software environments. That goes for any workspace. A bunch of cool people makes everything better. Needs to be a good cultural fit. Darius says the more assholes at work, the more problems. Shogun says 40% skill as an artist, 60% communication as an employed artist. Gotta mesh and communicate well. Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're this isn't rocket surgery. It's not. We're not. You know, there are, not to understate the technical challenges of what we're doing, or to dismiss the value of the creativity that our artists bring in or anything like that. But the hardest part of getting it done is getting people to communicate well with each other, be patient with each other, be patient with the process, feel safe. There's a great book on this topic. If you've never read it, it's worth a read, even if you don't enact all of it. It's a book by Ed Catmull. It's got some fun history of 3D graphics and stuff in there as well. Ed Catmull is really kind of like an unsung hero of 3D graphic. But Creativity Inc., overcoming the unseen forces that stand in the way of true inspiration. And a big part of what the book is about is how do you create an environment in which people feel safe, right? Safe to provide feedback, safe to receive feedback. Because you could be in an environment where like somebody comes up and it could be, so check it out. The same poor feedback could have two completely different impacts based off of the culture of the team and like the environment. Someone could come up and give unproductive feedback like, hey, that thing looks like shit. Or, hey, that encounter, didn't have fun. It was lame. Right? Like, that's not helpful feedback. It's pretty rough. Like, you're, oh shit, that looks like shit, or that's lame. Oh, right? That's tough feedback. Now, the thing is, if we're tight, like if we like each other, even if we like each other most of the time, and sometimes, man, we just really don't like each other, but it's kind of like that shit where you've got a best friend or you got a brother, and you kind of need to box them in the ears a couple times, right? But like if we generally like and trust each other, someone's like, hey man, oh, that was shit. You know, you're like, oh, damn, really? It was? All right. Yeah, you know, what didn't you like about it? Or, oh, like, I kind of felt that going into it, or I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, so you're like, you don't want to, everybody always wants to make good stuff, but so you don't want to hear, oh, that was shit. But sometimes that could be like normal feedback, right? Where it's like, oh man, that sucked. Oh, all right. Yeah, I kind of felt that way too. No big deal. And yeah, right. You could get the feedback from like, you get the feedback that it just looks like a worst ever quest. And you're like, all right, man, I kind of hear what you're saying because of blah and this and but I blame Steve Jobs for people saying stuff like that and thinking it's okay. But again, I'm telling you, there's two different environments here. I don't blame Steve Jobs for it because listen, when I was in the army, we straight shit talked each other. We were horrible to each other. And it didn't mean anything. That's how we talked, and we like it just, that's the way we, and hey, I'm not saying every work environment needs to be this way. I'm using an extreme example, all right? Now, you could be in another environment where there's a lot of talking behind the scenes and there's a lot of cliques and it's very political, right? Like if it's just straight, hey, we just always say what we have to say very directly and we don't mean anything by it, and you know what? Like I can tell you, oh, that's pretty shitty, and give you a hug and be like, I know you're going to do better or whatever. That's one environment. And then the other environment is, hey, that shit. And you know that that's probably the best thing the person's going to say about it, because then they're going to be like, hey, did you see this guy? I don't know if he needs to be on the team. Yeah, you know what? We keep giving him a break, and then like keeps making this shitty stuff. And, you know, like, ah, man, maybe we need to think about like Should we start getting someone else to replace them? Blah, blah, blah. Right? And so one of the things that's in the book, in the Ed Catmull book, is these meetings that they'd have called the Brain Trust meetings, where the various directors for Pixar, because the book's basically about Pixar. And so the various directors from Pixar and animators, like that, sort of the higher level folks, would get together and like review a reel or a daily or something and give very, very direct feedback. And everybody knew that was a part of that when they left that room, when they left that meeting, that was that. They gave the feedback. They're not going off and going like, oh man, did you see that shit? That guy, maybe he sucks or whatever. It was just like, hey, we're going to give you feedback. Please take it. Do something with it. Don't do something with it. Ultimately, you got to own your results. And it was like, how do you create an environment where people feel safe enough that, like, if you make a mistake, you don't think you're on a chopping block? I've been in environments that were so political that you, like, the ulcer is forming because it's every time any little thing was wrong, there's that feeling of, oh man, it's going on the list. I could get fired any day now, right? And that's just, it's a shitty environment. It's a shitty feeling, right? And a lot of times, I've seen that happen in kind of in this weird way where people are trying to be nice so they don't say like super negative stuff. Like Kenji just said, toxic positivity is also not the right environment. Where all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're gonna try to give you the feedback as nice as possible in the meeting, right? Because we don't want to be rude, we don't want to be abrasive, we don't want to be toxic, but then those people that didn't give the feedback in a very direct manner would spend a fair amount of time like continuing the conversation afterwards. It's like, yeah, well, I'm not sure if she's the right person for the job, and it's like, oh, horrible, man. Hey, Curly Goblin, sorry about that. And to me, that's worse. I'd rather somebody be like, hey man, this is shitty, but I know you can do better, and then know that they're not, that's it, that's the feedback. They go off and they're not holding it against me. It's not a little tick mark on my did something wrong list or any of that stuff. So, I mean, I think within our team, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, like maybe we need an anonymous survey or something at some point. I think hopefully the team knows that we're direct at times and we go back and forth or, whatever, but we're not sitting there like taking your inventory constantly and going, well, I don't know. I mean, we have a lot of follow-up conversations and a lot of sort of like middle ground conversations when people aren't agreeing or whatever. And I mean, we put time into it, but I don't know. From my position up in the ivory tower at least, it seems like things feel pretty good or go well. So, makes sense. Hey Katie, what's going on? Happy Wednesday. Bill said or asked, Junior Unity developer question. How did you get Unity to run while you're editing the zone? I either edit or use game mode, which puts me in the view of the player. I am in game mode. But I've also got a scene tab open. You can add a tab here. And then if you don't have a scene tab up there already, Bill, then add a scene tab. And then you can switch between them. And so then you're kind of in edit mode, right? While the game's running, which is always fun. And then with us, since almost everything is in data, here, we'll finally do this 2-minute task. We'll finish this 2-minute task here, right? So what am I working on today? We're taking an hour and 25 minutes to do a 2-minute thing as usual to show you how efficient and effective the tools are. And they are. It's just I am not. What's up, Dragon? All right, so emotes, the dusty stable appears to be well kept despite the treacherous, I think that's spelled correctly, condition surrounding it. All right, maybe not the best stuff. Eric can make that better, right? And then what I'll do is I'll just close that out. That's our little close it out mark. I'll hit save again, right? So that should have updated the database. Let's refresh. Let's look for Fallen. This is volume 13. All right, there it is. It's in there now. Samio, thank you for the follow. Have I ever accidentally broken the database? Be honest. Yeah, I overwrote the entire database. I overwrote the entire database a few years back. It was hilarious. I ran a script that was meant to update my local database with the database's info, and it updated the database with its like an older version of its own info or some shit. It was ridiculous. I never work locally anymore. Yeah, I was like, Ollie, I think I just overwrote the entire database with some nonsense. Then he laughed and he was like, oh, I've got a backup. So, and that was like year one. And then we had a new guy on the team who did the exact same thing like a couple days later, and he was horrified because I do it. I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, shit. I just ruined the game. Sorry. No big deal. But this poor guy had been on the team for a couple days and did the same thing. And he was just like, you could hear the sweat dripping off him as he typed it. And he sent me a direct message. I'm like, laughed. I was like, dude, don't sweat it. I just did the same thing. You know what? Let's fix it so that none of us can ever do that again. And so we did. So anyways, I just added this mud action. Let's see if it works. It may work. What I'll do is I'll reload the zone. That should fix our stable hand there. And yeah. EverQuest was also a live database. And I will say that taught me to try to be pretty careful, because that was stressful as a brand new designer. That was real stressful. It's like, oh, my posture is so freaking bad in this chair. All right, so now the stable master. His name's not good, but hey, we can fix that later. Has Sean the Leaker mentioned any test dates yet? No. Zukin said, if you haven't broken the game once, are you even making a game? Probably not. Need to do more. All right. Bill, when you're in here, if you want to go to full screen on this, right, as we're sort of switching between these, something that John Gamble taught me early on, double click on the tab, double click on the tab. It's a little bit slower going back, unfortunately. Here. So reload zone, stable master's there. It jacks my UI up a little bit when I do this. But that's, you know, that's sort of the whole thing with toggling between views like that. I hit look. And boom, mud action. The dusty stable appears to be well kept despite the treacherous conditions surrounding it. So Now, what we can do is, and let's see if we can do it. And let's see if we can be a little bit quicker this time. Dargit says, worked with an engineering manager that would have new hires submit broken check-ins on like day 2 to 3 with us and spend a day fixing it. Thought being that they were going to do it sooner or later, might as well learn the recovery process we had ASAP. That's actually a really smart move. We actually have old saves of the entire game, right? So it's feasible to go back and play year 1 M&M back when it was Project N. So it's data and everything. Old clients, old data. All right. So we can come in here. And then one of the fun things we can do with mod actions. I love when Keith's like, oh, maybe we could turn this whole mod action explainer into a into like a short video, which is a great thought. But my inability to just explain something and not get sidetracked by 15 other things is non-existent in this setting. I can do it. I think I'm pretty okay at it if I'm not streaming, but streaming, I'm kind of confused about EA. It's not a head start, but also there is no wipe, Kenji said. It is not a head start on 1.0 servers. So if you want to stay on an early access server in perpetuity, then you can do that. It's not considered a head start on a brand new 1.0 server. Or if we do, we'll probably, you know, depending on what happens. Yeah, so if we're blessed enough to have people interested in the game throughout the early access, then we'll probably have some new servers that come up throughout early access. If you know there's a big enough population for it, where it's kind of like a TLP up, not a TLP, it's like a new launch up to that point. So it's like, oh, trolls are finally in, right? And it's like, boom, you get a new server where everything up until that point is available. So you should do a montage of how it's changed from start to end when you go through early access. Yeah, that would be a fun video to make. Rob Graves says, what's up? What's your personal stance on housing? Do you prefer to keep it to hubs or enforce some interaction? What do you mean by hubs? Like instant? Or I mean, I can describe our housing to you. Is Troll available in early access? Yeah, for sure. The goal of early access is to get all the player races in and all of the racial cities and the rest of the regions and all that stuff in. More like a main city, for example. So we're going to have the ability for you to rent housing throughout the world. So a lot of it's going to be focused in cities, naturally. Makes sense. But not at early access launch. Sorry, I might have misread that. Troll will be available during early access, not at launch. Thank you, Chip. That would have been Zukin. Get busy. The point of early access is to get all of the races and all the stuff I just said online, but it will not be online going into early access. So Rob Grave, the the zone that we just brought up, our little sea island archipelago zone actually has some structures in it that you'll be able to rent, right? That will serve as housing. You know, we want to encourage weird places for you to find housing as well, right? So you can maybe find a you could find an inn that's out along a road between zones or whatever that you can then treat as housing. And then ultimately it'd be up to you. Do you actually turn it into an inn and a trading post, or do you not, right? Is it just the place that you live? All right, so I'm going to create another new. Here we go. Somebody asked earlier, I saw the question, I just got reminded of it, but I didn't answer it at the time, whether or not it's preferable to use box volumes or spheres. I had always heard that spheres were more expensive, and so I always thought box volumes were better. And then I swear I talked to Ali, and he said that spheres are... I thought he said that spheres were not more expensive, but I swear that can't be the case. Ultimately, it's negligible. Chip, maybe you know. Ooh, it made 2. Did it? What's going on? Why does that look like? Oh, it's penetrating above. That's why it looks that way. Optical illusion. I came over here to shift 6. Thanks. Change time of day. Yeah, so that's the hope, right? Like in mixing some of the systems that we have, you know, your ability to have a pack animal or your ability to have a mount or maybe a little boat or whatever, then combined with your ability to set up your own trading post, then combined with the way that you can't sell shit for full price everywhere, leads to interesting little player economies and things like that. Darkin says, my understanding is that spheres are cheaper because it's a simple distance check in any direction. Makes sense to me. When you say it like that, I'm like, all right, fair. I will accept it. I'm kind of like Family Feud. It just needs to be within like the top 6, top 8 on my board, and I'm like, I'll accept it. I hope you guys realize at no point, because it's funny, I saw some critique of a different dude who puts content on the internet, always referencing his like how many years he's been in the industry and stuff. I hope it never comes off to you guys that I'm like, I've been doing this so long, I know what I'm talking about. Dude, I am not the guy that's gonna tell you that he knows what he's talking about. Hopefully I get some stuff right, but Chronic, I'm not bringing any names into this. If you know, you know. All right, so what we could do here is make a volume that's a bit bigger. Yeah. And I say that for benefit of the team as well, right? Like, hopefully you guys don't think I'm a douchebag. That'd be nice. So I'm going to turn off all these little lines and spawn goblins and stuff like that. So just, it's a little less to look at here. Cool. Because I just want to look at this volume. So we got this volume here. And if I make these smaller, cool, that's even nicer. Go over here. Bill said, thanks, been in my mind as I use volumes with mud actions. I was thinking it was similar to collision detection. Yeah, I swear I was like maybe on DC Universe or something where they said, because we were using a lot of volumes there as well to trigger stuff in And I thought they were like, hey, use this volume and not that. But Chip says, it's true, but an AABB check on a box collider isn't significantly more expensive. I think that's what Ollie told me as well. So anyways, we've got this, and we'll say, we'll call this waypoint stable look. It could probably have a better name, right? And then what we'll do is prompt, we'll say, actually, we'll make this an, well, yeah, this will be another, it'll just be another look. And in this case, it'll be a T-emote. The emote. You notice something sitting under sitting under the cart, but can't. You got to be careful the way you word these. I think that's still fine though. You know, we're doing it on the fly. We're doing it live. Sitting under the cart, but can't make out what it. Because some of this you've got to kind of work with this a bit too, because it's going to be less than ideal sometimes. But once you kind of get the rhythm of our jank, once you understand the flavor of our jank, then you can work with it. It's like any game. And different designers will provide different jank. And then, you know, we may get feedback and we may adjust it, right? So anyways, we got this going on here, and then we hit save. And then we can either make it a smaller volume, right? So we could come in here and we could go, all right, so I hit save there, you know, just for to be super clear. Fallen Pass 14 exists now. I see it. Great. Then we could do another one and just be like, we come over here, create a new one, boom. And now we've got this guy, he's 15. We're gonna comment him, and that's gonna be Waystation stable part. And what we can do is take this little dude here, make him much smaller. And maybe it'll even stay a sphere this time. Come here. No, but I like, maybe it'll work. I typically like box colliders because they're a little bit easier to work with at times for stuff like this, right? Even though sometimes the sphere is more intuitive action-wise. Still, this isn't bad, but you don't want that overlap because you may get a false positive if you're over here doing it, right? So we come here and kind of overlap it where you think you guys are probably going to be. You know what? I don't like it. I just don't like it. I don't like sphere. Box collider it is. We're doing a box within a box within a box. It's mudception. We're mudceptioning, guys. It's boxes all the way down for sure. Isn't that a Sturgill Simpson album? Boxes all the way down. Yeah, it's a Turtles all the way down reference. Give it a little bit more leeway. All right, so now, hey, Bite Keeper. So now we've got another box here. And in this one, we can give it a different prompt. Or it's going to be a different action. It's actually going to be INP, INS? I forget. It's been a little while since I've been in here making these, to be honest with you. A little rust. INP. Cool. So it's going to be INP prompt will be... Let me move this out of the way here. Let me get my stuff set up over here. So it'll be, the prompt will basically be phrase. Did we say cart? We said cart in the last one, right? So it'll just be cart. And the reply will wind up being another T emote because it's an emote that's going straight to you. Made you look. Because we're just doing a test one real quick, right? Right? So save. Alright. So go back to game real quick. We got these guys in. We'll reload zone. We'll see if I forgot to do anything. Probably did. Maybe did. Then we'll fix it real quick. Pretty easy, pretty fast to fix. It takes a minute for reload zones to kick off these days. I'm not sure what that's about. We'll have to, when the guys aren't as busy, we'll have to see if that's something where we can speed that back up again. Takes a minute. Did I see a Mandrake race in the list during last test? What type of race is that? You did probably not see a Mandrake race. Mandrake race is a fantastical, magical, legendary race that people talk about, but... Alright, so let's see if all of our stuff works. Look. Dusty Stable appears to be well kept, despite the treacherous conditions surrounding it. Intentionally slow down so you can carefully think about your next task. At Night Harbor, it's slow enough to give me a little break. I can sit here and play with my lockpick set. Alright, so that worked. If I'm here, this place seems interesting. Let's see if it works. Oh, you know what? I gotta reverse the numbers on these, I bet. Did that give me a third one? It did. Okay, cool. Cool little reminder. So let's come in here. I think this will fix it. So we got 13, 14, and 15 now. Let me reverse the order and see if that fixes it. Because when we're nesting, when we're nesting volumes within volumes, it's actually not proximity based, I believe. The DB has like the ID has a say. Keith, Chip, let me know if that sounds right. Ideally, it would be more intuitive to the designer. It would just be proximity based, but let's see if this fixes it. So we got 13, 14, 15. Let's make 13. What are y'all working on now? Just playing with mud actions a little bit more. So I'll make this one 16. Make it the highest. I'll make this one. Whoops, that's not going to work because it's not high enough. 17. 16. See if that works now. That should work. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, then I'll have to call tech support. Dark Inside said, sorry, watching Shark Tale with my niece. She loves that movie. I don't know if I've ever watched Shark Tale. That's a little bit older one, isn't it? Shark Tale? Hasn't that been around for a while? Playing with mud, some of the best times growing up involved mud. One of the times that I lived in Florida as a kid. Here, let me do a... I know there's some place where there's a hail. I'm gonna do that really quick. Come over to this guy. Is it confirmed you're getting your tinfoil hat in game? I don't know if it is confirmed. Cool. Fish are friends, not food. That sounds familiar though. Maybe I have seen it. Alright, so I'm in here. I look. Dusty Stable. That worked. Let's see if this next one works. It may not work. It may prove me wrong. You notice something sitting under the cart, but can't make out what it is. Okay, it did work, right? So it's just the order. It helps, I guess, prioritize it. So the description here is just sort of the general stable description. Look, Dusty Stable appears to be well kept. Yeah. And then here, since I'm close to the cart, and this is, you know, it's interesting stuff here. Maybe there's something to find here. I'll go, maybe there's something here. I'm going to look again. Oh, did it not work this time? Should, right here. Look. I noticed something sitting under the cart, but can't make out what it is. Now, if I come here and use the mud action, inspect cart, then I get the response right here. You guys can't see it because my big ass head's in the way. Made you look. Now, it's easy enough for me to have it be basically anything. You know, you could get an item, right? It could say you find a shiny coin. Right? And like I said before, the only difference between this being one that like we look here, grab this guy. The difference between this being around all the time and this being a condition, or one that only happens every once in a while, is like I could put a condition in here so that you know, only happens at night, only happens during the day, only happens when it's raining, only happens if I have a buff on me, see invis, detect magic, maybe, right? Shit like that. So then that will leverage our buff system, and then hopefully as we get more different utility buffs and things like that in, you know, it could be yeah, just a whole range of combinations of that stuff. And then one of the things that we want to get in sooner rather than later, hopefully, is a respawn delay on the item. So it could be that you look and there's nothing there, but it's because maybe somebody had just picked something up. And then if you come back a little bit later and look again, then there is something there and it gives you the item right away. And then there's kind of again a respawn delay, right? So those are some mud actions in effect there. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that demonstrated the system a little bit. Again, one of the dangers of showing this stuff off is don't want to, I don't want it to make kind of like a magic trick. If you see exactly how the magic trick's performed, you're like, oh wow, magic's actually sometimes it's kind of simple and lame. But hopefully the end effect is that you really start to get the sense that it's hard to discover everything in our game because you don't know if it's going to be, is it going to be something that's based off of a certain condition? Is it going to be, we've got a newbie quest where you can't see the items that you need to see and you can't interact with the items that you want to interact with if you've got unless you've got a certain item with you that helps you see them, right? So it's stuff like that. Dark Inside says, I love the classic spell effect like in EQ1. I do really like OG EQ, just didn't have time to spend second job playing the game because if you don't, then you're never going to get far. You know what I want? A game that even if you only have an hour to play, I still feel I can get something done. As I feel that not everyone has hours a day to play their favorite MMO all the time, and just be able to log in and complete a few things makes it worth continuous playing. Yeah, I think sometimes though it comes down to how we judge the progress, right? Because it feels like it's one thing to make progress every time you log in. It's another thing to make progress in a way where you feel like, oh man, I'm kind of keeping up with the Joneses. If you're okay not keeping up with all the Joneses, then I think it'll be okay. What's your view on parsers? Will they be allowed on M&M? Personally, and I'm just speaking personally, I'm not a big fan. I feel like it removes some of the mystery at a minimum. Depending on the nature of the game, it can either change the way people play the game and start to expect other people to play the game, or in some cases, like when we talk about the example of they're used on P99 and it doesn't necessarily change the way people play P99. It's not that big a deal, but yes, Dargith, in my humble opinion, personally, I literally think that they're probably kind of maybe not necessarily my favorite thing for this game. Now, in other games, maybe they're great. Plump Helmet says, pretty excited to think about all the secrets we'll be able to hunt down and find. Always something new to discover. Yeah, one of the things too is the fact that we can have these linked into skills and skill requirements, and over time maybe even more stuff. It'll be a nice hook for certain trade skills, what we're calling trade skills, but maybe more. Maybe it's a better description to say like professions or whatever, right? Like, if you're in a dungeon and you've got a high archaeology skill, what could you potentially see? And then we've also got some of the ones where you may see something. I've been meaning to do it for like, I don't know, 2 years now, but it's on my list of shit just to get done this week. If you've done the fighter quest, I believe, you have to go and you have to like rub charcoal over parchment on inscriptions on a pillar, and then that removes the. Thanks, Dave. Oh, jeez. What is that? What is he even saying? Is it me saying dumb shit afterwards, or is it literally my actual opinion? I'm gonna look. Yes, Target. In my humble opinion, personally, I literally think. Yes, Target. In my humble opinion, personally, I literally think. Hello, Dave. Hello, Dave. What was I even talking about? We were talking about mud actions. I just like your pause. Now I'm completely paused because, dude, you interrupted me mid-funk. Warrior Quest inscription. Dargith, you're so mean to me. That's how I know you love me. You're always pulling my pigtails, Dargith. Yeah, so I've been meaning to put an inscription collection quest in the game. And that just means, you know, if you're aware of it from like the fighter quest or just in general, you're running around with some parchment and some charcoal, getting frottages, a word I learned from Hamad, frottages of the various inscriptions, and then bring them back and give them to the right dude, and boom, little quest, little questy quest. We've got some wild stuff going in. It's gonna be nice actually getting that stuff a little more integrated and deployed. If you were here earlier, you saw some of the stuff that was posted. Did anybody not see the mount images that were posted in Discord? I had to look it up, Zukin. It may actually be frottage, but I think it's frottage. So yeah, we've got a prototype. We've got the animal taming system in. We've got very, very, very early mount in. I'll show you all those in a second. Yeah, so those of you that are just coming in now and didn't see this earlier, Zukin shared some wonderful shared our wonderful mount system with the, oh my gosh, it went away, with people in Discord. There we go. Ship it. Ship it. Olgo Dev said, how about a mount where you have a bat emerging from your buttock? It's like you were sitting in the design meeting with us. In order to control your mount, you have to, like, you really have to, as you're developing your writing skill, you gotta establish dominance. So here we see a halfling clearly establishing dominance on his giant rat mount, right? You just gotta get really eye to eye and be like, the Ratmobile? Exactly, Spooey. So our horses, they're very smooth. Not a lot of jostling, thus the very chill riding position. Horses are locked in. Horses are good. We're done here. He's moving so fast you can't, yes. This is the, this is what we call Ethereum dressage. If this is what Zukin's leadership delivers. This is what Zukin's leadership delivers. I keep telling you all. Zukin said Zukin said this was done. And he was not going to take any of our shit. There's no feedback. He's like, it's done. Let's move on. It was a very heated discussion. It was a very heated discussion with Zukin. We had to ask him to calm down. And he said, I see nothing wrong. He is not a junior artist. He does not need us telling him how to animate. We sent this gift to my last company, Star Stable, and asked them what they thought, and they said, looks solid, ship it. No feedback. Zukin is correct. Frankenbean says, I have been around horses my whole life, and this is mostly correct. See? We've got at least 3 points of validation now. This will be the one. This will be the one clip of the VOD that Co-Carnage sees. Oh. The Star Stable should be worried that we're going to take their gerbs. Here we have. As I said, this has been foretold in prophecy forever. Fink says, has he acknowledged Eminem in some way? He has acknowledged Eminem in at least 2 or 3 different ways. And we appreciate it. I had posted this image. See, if you look here, for those of you just listening in, if you go back to one of the first, this may actually Goblin's not here to ask. This may have been the first 3P illustration that we did. And the 3Ps was just like a thing that we came up with, which was like for illustration, it should have a place. It should illustrate a place. It should illustrate a party, right? Because it's a multiplayer game, and it should illustrate peril. Like, give a vibe of like, it's a group of us dealing with some sketchy shit somewhere. And so then he put the gnome right there sitting on the ogre's shoulder, and now we have a gnome on an ogre's shoulder. We're good. Delivering on our promises, on our campaign promises. Here we have a little bit more action. 3P is a great idea. Where did that come from? It came from a discussion with Goblin where we were talking about illustrations because he had just done a really cool illustration of the Deep Dwarf. And like he said, he came out and he said like he wasn't really happy with it. He was like, I don't know, I kind of feel like it kind of like it feels a little flat or something. Like his comment was something about it doesn't feel right. Like this illustration's cool, and you know, again, you see the dwarf cleric, great illustration, and they're cool. But he's like, I'm doing these illustrations, but something doesn't feel right. And so we got into a discussion, and I put forward like, all right, if you think of, if we were illustrating a book cover, what are the things that we'd want to have in a book cover to really sell the book? And oftentimes it's a character dealing with like, oh shit, there's something here, right? Even if you can't see it, there's that sense of tension, that allusion to there being a story. And right in what we're doing, you know, it's high fantasy and it's dungeons killing shit and like taking their stuff, and so it's just all right. Well, establishing that sense of adventure with other people, and so we started talking about those key elements, and it wound up, you know, those 3 elements were critical, and then I was like, oh well, let's just, you know, let's maybe try that and formalize it going forward for a bit, right? It was a thing where I forget which of us was saying what about, you know, like the, you know, calling it the 3 Ps or whatever, doesn't matter. The end result was we had a kind of agreement to move forward for a bit with things that embodied like that 3P spirit. So if you go to monsters and memories updates, you'll see that change a little bit and kind of what we were doing, right? And naturally, depending on what's going on, it's not, you know, we don't always 100% stick to it, but like here you'll start to see it happening. So right here, yeah, because this was like back when I was just like putting random shit on the cover, these old like 2021 updates and stuff, right? But then we got this one that we are just looking at, and then we've got this one with Kezi and the party coming in. Another one. Here we got this sort of throne room pick. The Minotaur. This one's super cute. Got the giant staring down at the party from behind. The shot of the deep. This one. I use this one whenever I'm on like calls or whatever. It's my background. This one's a little bit different take, but assume there's people in there, and so it still counts. This one wound up establishing some fun new lore in the game. Gelatinous cube, right? These guys hiding under here from the Cobalt. This one, oh, I love it so much. I can't wait for this dog to be a mount for my gnome. Again, underdogs, goblins, Intellicure, right? So mostly hitting that, but you can. I feel like the images that wind up being the strongest for us, if we look and we kind of say what's the most iconic update images, they're the ones that follow the formula, right? Like this is a great image, but is it like without the danger and stuff like that? To me, it doesn't feel as tight as like even this, right? Like the deep elf with her slaves and riding a lizard mount and overlooking the sea here. There's just something about that like action. You know what I mean? Anyways. Can you charm that and then use that as a mount? So the details of exactly how those things are going to play out, like currently, yes and yes, but the details of ultimately how those are going to turn out with regards to skills and who can use it and when and all that stuff is stuff we're going to be working through. Yeah, and here's the last mount image. You can breed wolves in this game. We've talked about it. We've got animal breeding as a skill. But this is not breeding. This is actually, he went to happy hour way too early after wolf work. And you know when the wolf and the sheepdog clock out at the end of the day, right? There's the whistle burp, and then they go and they clock out and it's like, see you tomorrow, Fred. You know, see ya, Bill. So anyways, Fred got off. Yeah, see you, Sam. He got off work a bit early. Had a few too many. and she had to come pick him up and take him home. That's the story. And I'm not saying that it's autobiographical, but most writing is autobiographical. So now you know. Now you know. Yeah. Self-inserts are ruining the industry. Well, I don't know. I mean, drunk wolf self-insert seems better than some of what we've received lately. But yeah, yeah, yeah. Speaking of Simon, yeah. So, those of you that were here for this, I'll probably end up changing that mud action so that it'll be a little something for you. But if you watch the stream, consider it like a little freebie or something. But yeah, the hope is to get a lot of these in so that you know, tons of places have good descriptions. That's one of the things I was talking to Eric about. So when he's not doing editing for us and cleaning up our documentation stuff, he'll be helping out with getting more mud actions in, doing some nice creative writing work. So you'll see more of that. You'll see more of the aggro, death and victory text in. So that gives you some additional flavor as well. Hey, Reverie. Yeah. Wolf Spirit 80 said perfection. I just got it that you would say that, of course. Cool. So that was mud actions. That was hopefully 2 hours well spent. Okay, I did this the other day during the playtest in, I think, like hit TA. There's something going on. Am I just not hitting return? It's like a combo of my keyboard being shitty, my body position, me missing one of my fingers now. Let's see. Let's zone to a zone that you may not have seen. Since Simon's in here. Have you guys gotten stuff done in the last bit? I haven't been following along. I haven't checked on your availability. Is there new stuff that I could be spoiling? But I won't. Nicodemus asked, where did the 3P art style start with Eminem? It started with a conversation Goblin and I had. I think it exists under some other names, other places, but it was just something that we decided to try. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I don't think I'm zoning anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'll just kill it. Let me check on something really fast. We'll see. We'll see if I get back in on that guy. I wonder what's going on here. Do I need to grab latest? Excuse me. Did you guys see last week's playtest at all? Honest Me said, haven't peeked around much since last playtest, but it's looking great. Yeah, the next playtest we have, there should be a bunch of like new stuff for you guys to see. It would be really cool if we could get. We've been working on the new textures. It'd be great if we had a pass of new textures in. Sorry, when I say playtest, I don't. I tend to use playtests, like internal playtests, interchangeably with like the stress tests and stuff that you guys are interested in. And I've got to watch being so easy with it. Or so loose with it. We had an internal play test. I played on stream last week, I guess is the easiest way to say it. And I was just wondering if most people had actually seen that. We played level 37 tunes, and we were hanging out at the Rats. I had a lot of fun, and it's funny because like the two camps that we were at that whole time, I think it wound up being like 5 hours. It's a fraction of the camps in that area, so that was encouraging because we had a lot of fun. Is there a VOD? Yes, you can find the VODs here. There's a link in chat now. Caught that last playtest with Zukin at the helm. It was a lot of fun. Yep. That is the one. Uh, 10 nodes should be in this next time. Sorry you missed the stress test in December, but we'll have more. That's so cool. One server has Tortuga, one has Key West. First, what are you talking about? How's APBs and new lighting stuff going? I'll hop in and show you in a minute. We'll see if I get back in game. Compiling shaders. Something was probably updated since last time I was in this zone then. Classic Cool said, I'd be happy with a stress test, even if it's restricted in Night Harbor. Plenty of content to go around. Yeah, you guys are super cool about, it's cool to see the level of appreciation, for the test. Oh, sun's going down. Yeah, we appreciate the help too. All right, here I will. So those of you that haven't been here in a while, we've got a couple new zones. Oh yeah, that's what I thought you were meaning. Shallow Shoals, Player Island. Yeah, so one of the islands here will have housing that you can basically take over. It's like player housing, using the system as it goes in, and it'll be a stop along the way. So you could turn it into a you could turn it into a trading post or whatever you want. And it's a concept that we actually have for a later zone as well. We've talked about. Don't know if we'll actually do it, but one of the ideas that we had for one of our 3 human cities is actually have it be in a state of, it's kind of in an uncertain state, and you can take it one way or you can take it the other way. And so it could be like become a lawless evil place, or it could be a more orderly, benign place. So that's still on the list. I've got some ideas on how to do it in a fairly manageable way. ultimately it is 2 data sets. You know, but if you guys remember in Lucklin, one of my good buddies and sort of design partners, friends, during that era, we worked on zones together, and he did a pretty ambitious implementation for Hollow Shade More, and I wound up doing a lot of the sort of like the you know, grunt work in that zone, but he was really trying to have it be like 3 factions, NPC factions vying for the zone, and it would change the dynamics of the zone. And we had very limited tools, but it was kind of cool to see the stuff that was being worked on there. He was the same person that implemented the Coldane Ring War. And yeah, so I think with our new tools and sort of understanding of things, doing this other zone will not be as difficult or crazy as it sounds. But I have suggested, I don't know that we'll go with it, but I've suggested that if it becomes a lawless place, that it's also a PvP zone. Was that within the Thurbians and the Granga fight in the zone? No, it was the Sonic Wolves, the Gremlings, and the whatever I think there's like an owlbear. Yeah, they were owlbears? Okay, owlbears. I thought they had a special name. And that was on the way to Acrylia, where there's a Ring of Fire event. Instanced housing or open world? Open world. How do you really break into game design? I've been passionate about video games, especially design, since I was about 8 or so years ago. 23 now. I haven't spent much time in I have spent much time in most of the games you had to roll in. The way I got into design was through customer service, and then meeting the designers, and then just trying to find a way to make myself useful to them, and then learning what they did. These days, with all of the tools that are available, you know, if you're really into design, I think with the tools that are available, with the tutorials that are available on like YouTube and things like that, and the books and everything else that are out there, it should be feasible for you to kind of explore what kind of designer you want to be. You know, is it more, are you somebody that's more narrative driven? Are you systems driven? Are you somebody that's into game balance? Are you somebody that's into mission scripting? That type of stuff, right? So you can work on small prototype games. I would say one place to start is to take some example games. Like if you were to go to Unity and just look at their little project games, you can go in there and start just altering them, make them do different things than what was originally intended. So if you're thinking, hey, I think would like to be a game designer, that's to me seems like a good starting point. There's just so much information and such good tools out these days that I think it's easier to learn it. It's easier to kind of start to explore it for yourself. I don't know that it's easier to get into the industry. And one of the things that we're seeing is there was just an IGDA report. I should have left it up. Then I could have read out some of the stats. But we've seen a tremendous number of layoffs in the last 2 years in the industry. So there's a lot of talent, like experienced talent on the market. And those folks, you know, they do it professionally and they're looking to pay their bills, and they're in a tough spot. So I can't necessarily, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm not empathetic and saying like, hey, while you're looking for a job, maybe try doing a little bit of what we're doing, which is get together with some other folks. If you're a programmer, get together with artists, designer. If you're a designer, you know, look for programmers, artists. And maybe just while you're looking around, while you're trying to find work, if you're not in a situation where you're like, fuck, I'm just trying to like not starve or lose my house, You know, if the situation and time allows, I'd say start working with some folks, jam on some stuff, and see if you can put a little something together and stay sharp. And who knows, maybe you will be able to put together something that's a tiny enough little pitch to start up, get a little bit of funding. But yeah. Try to finish something small, Keith said. Maybe make little games that make your friends laugh. Yeah. I mean, I think before people even make something, I was very fortunate to learn game design in an environment where, because at the time I thought, oh, maybe I'll be an environment artist or whatever, but I was fortunate enough to learn game design in an environment that was live, right? So EverQuest was live. I could learn the tools that the designers were using, and I understood the context. And so it was about making more of that thing. And that's why I kind of encourage, like, if you can find as a like a super basic project to start with, is don't make anything. Modify something. Now, over time, as you develop your chops and you start to learn more about, like, understand design fundamentals and things like that, then getting into like 2D sort of paper design of games even before you begin to build them, and you know, really figure out like your intent before you start. I think that just getting in and modifying a thing to do something different gets you a lot more immediate feedback, and it's not overwhelming. Maybe like StarCraft editor or something. Yeah, like basically any editor. But again, you know, these simple projects, I don't know, do they still exist? Unity had these cool little projects that you could basically download or, you know, go sort of line by line and get them set up. And they weren't hard. Like, you know, I'm not a technical person, but I was able to get in and you know, mess around with the C# that they had there. And the reason why I recommend that is one of the biggest challenges that I've seen with new designers is new designers overcomplicate everything, bite off more than they can chew, like 90% of the time, have huge ambitions, and then overwhelm themselves and vapor lock. Classic Cool says, my son's super into game design. He's on Blockbench now, but wants to try Godot 4 next. I'm learning a lot in the process. Oh, that's awesome. That's super. Man, kids are so creative, and they pick stuff up so fast. It's insane, right? But I think you know, it may not be the case for you, so apologies if it's not a good recommendation. But I think the recommendation of like starting with something and tweaking it, and then learning about like, oh, if I tweak this, that causes that to happen. Oh, I broke it. I can untweak it, but I still have a functioning thing. Making something from scratch is pretty difficult. But going in and tweaking and like, oh, I'm going to change the way I look. Dude, we actually got a feature at Star Stable. We added a feature because the young girls that played our game, for those of you who don't know, my last company that I worked at was Star Stable Entertainment, and it makes an online horse adventure game for girls. It's a MMO. It's actually pretty old school MMO. It's you know, interesting lore and all that stuff. But one of the things that the girls were doing was they figured out where to go in the directory structure of the game to delete, I don't even remember what it was, but to delete like the player asset or whatever. So long story short, they figured out how to make their character no longer render, or make characters no longer render on the game, so that they could run around as horses. rather than riding the horses, they just wanted to be horses. And they would get together and they'd run around as wild horses. And some of the girls would like petition and tell on them or like be on Instagram. You know, Susie is hacking the game. She keeps hacking the game and posting videos about it. You need to ban her. And so the thing that we noticed was they just wanted to be horses. So we put in the ability for them to basically just toggle it. And boom. Spoiler alert, those were 46-year-old men. Sometimes they were. Sometimes they were, and sometimes we followed them closely. Let's see. DCU behind the scenes for the new episode looks really cool. Very different, focused on story. Oh, neat. Blue Lantern power set. I haven't read comics in so long. But I was Sinestro once for Halloween while I worked on that game. What else was that? Hall is me. You had asked earlier. You said you're 23. I'm curious. Have we discussed how you came upon old school MMOs at your young age? I'm a little further ahead than that, but I might want to check back in and do more things. Changing video game systems is what made me fall in love with it. Eventually led me to sharing it with friends. Okay, cool. Yeah, if you're basically beyond that point, then I'd say you're probably in decent shape to kind of branch out and see. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a generalist. Great to be a generalist as well. Just at bigger teams, there tends to be a higher degree of specialization. I'll say that the more technical you are while still being someone that's got a good feel for gameplay and the experience and narrative and stuff, the more valuable you'll be. I encourage game designers to be as technical as they can possibly be, while still maintaining sort of like if their passion lies in storytelling or whatever, great. But it never hurts to be relatively technical. What time is it on in game? It is game time 1 p.m. Let's move that ahead a little bit. Wolfhausen says, hail. Also, my 2 cents just in popping in his convo. Pirate Software is a good person to talk to about game design creation on his stream or his Discord. Currently, he is doing a game jam as well. Yeah, go check that out. Learned a lot from researching code on GitHub for Star Wars Galaxies. Is Monsters and Memories going to have anything like that where you can search the code? No, we do not have any intention for the time being of releasing our code anytime soon. If we ever get to the point where we're kind of done, we're entering maintenance mode or whatever, then we'll find some way for you guys to preserve the experience if you feel that it's worthwhile. But until then, always happy to talk to you about it, but not give it to you. Hound says, my mother and father were massive EQ players and played on release. From an adolescent age, had the skeleton laugh ingrained in my head. I can picture that. Lich said, robot why? Because we're big meanies. Dark Inside says, I'm only 24 and got into MMOs from my uncle who got me into EQ 2 years ago. I think my account's like 13 years old now. I'm just waiting for the sun to go down here. Yeah, this is a super relaxing zone to hang out in, though. Serpock, did I say thanks for the follow? Thank you for the follow. What else we got? Be fishing here on my boat all day. Oh, so those of you that were watching the mud action placement earlier, let me zone to Night Harbor while I'm at it. Here, we'll go to nighttime real quick so we can see that. And then we'll go to Night Harbor and we'll see see if we can see some of what's been going on with the new light probe. It's in progress still, though. Not perfect. Possible to rent a tiki hut here as a player. I asked Ollie about that the other day, just kind of based on the design of them, whether or not it'd work. And he said should be good, but yeah, the intent is that you'll be able to rent some housing in here. Yeah, speaking of pirates, there's an island that is a pirate lair that's in here. We've got another island that's way over there that's more of a slightly more civilized place. Wonder if it'll be contested real estate or not, since it's a bit out of the way. Oh yeah, we'll see. Did you just see sharks written in the sky? You probably did see that. Actually, let me go back to... Let me put on GM speed. Let me fly. We'll show off a few things. Just following it. Shark. Just ignore that. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's nothing. Don't worry about it. So we've got... I won't go in too far. So... I won't ruin too much of it. But there'll be pirates. Yeah, as I was saying, if you watch the mud action placements earlier in the stream, that's essentially we can do the same thing with fishing volumes and stuff like that, right? We can embed volumes within volumes to make it so that there's one group of fish for the whole area, specific fish that maybe only spawn in certain places. Have those all be based on condition as well, so time of day and things like that. Simon, this isn't the old island, right? That's been modified? Or is it? Random RNG fish? Yeah, they'll be part of that table. Or is this a modification? Oh, this is that island, but it's been... I think it's been... Alright. We'll go look at some houses on stilts. Huts on stilts, since you asked about them. In Gary... Is it in Gary or is it in Garep 33? Either way, good to meet you. Any chance you will do any more streams with the EverQuest dev? I love those. Just Gary? Perfect. So Gary, I was just talking about that earlier. I need to. Just had a lot going on. I've been a bit lazy. Been more focused on M&M in the last few years. So I probably could, probably should. Be nice to catch up with some of the folks. So we got a nice little Nice little port over here. You can get to meet some of the other Bahara that aren't necessarily just the folks that are in Night Harbor. Would be interesting with the new EverQuest project aimed for 2028. Maybe. Most of the people I know are the former EQ folks that are not on, that are not currently on the team. I think there's a fishing village up here that's got some of the houses on struts. We'll look at that. Could make a super rare items that you can fish up per region that when combined spawn a rare world boss, like BDO sort of. Beers Gaming, yeah. That wouldn't be hard at all. Normal sizes run in shallow water? Nope. Oh wait, yeah, normal sizes run in shallow water. So I'm swimming here as a gnome. Oh, because I'm flying. And then there are deeper spots. And then we'll probably be doing a little bit of forming and smoothing and dips and all that other stuff. So goblins and gnomes get the shaft of, yeah, of course. Fishing village. Best water graphics in a game yet, by the way. Appreciate it. I mean, we grabbed... Oh, I'm going to sneeze. We grabbed the crest shader and played around with it because one of the guys on our team, John, is actually one of the two guys, I think it's only two guys, who have made the Salt games. The games where you sail around and explore and stuff. Water should improve further, yeah. And we've looked at Unity's latest water stuff, Unity 6. What's up, Nick? I did not expect to see you in here. Yeah, the other John. Been lurking? Oh, right on. Fish up cursed treasure. Can't drop, destroy it, and provide some minor ailment, but if enough are brought together, summons a ghost pirate ship raid encounter. We still need to get cursed items in yet. So once we have cursed items in, I think that's totally doable, Dargith. We're going to steal your idea. But these houses are on stilts. I know for a fact they're on stilts because I placed some of them in another zone as a test, and they are on stilts. So there are your stilt houses. Kind of afraid to go explore further. I don't want to spoil any secrets for you guys. Alright, so zone. Let's see if I can make it into Night Harbor. If I do, it's still very much in progress, but I'll kind of show you where we're at. And I didn't. Whoa. Try again. Dargit says, I've got great ideas. Everyone knows it. Some even say the best ideas. All right. Well, maybe we won't. Maybe we're not going into Night Harbor. That's that. The game had other ideas. Chinny said, some things got moved since you were last in there. Sorry for the confusion. Fishing Village is still over in the same spot. Oh, no worries. I saw you guys were working on some stuff. It's less about being it's in progress, so I'm not worried about being confused. But every once in a while, I'm looking around. I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to spoil too much. So, but I mean, it's only these guys. They're used to having stuff spoiled. Oh my gosh. Very yawny. We'll see if we get back in immediately, and if not, then what I'll do is I'll wrap it up. Excuse me. Speaking of Zook and stream, are any of our guys streaming? ZBrush is on? How long has he been on? Is he going to be on for a bit longer? Because we can raid him. Raid. I went to the prostheticist today, random topic while we load into zone, to see if I'm actually going to get a robot finger or not. Went to a different prostheticist and different companies' prosthetic. We'll see. We'll see what they come up with. Maybe I'll get a cool one. Maybe not. But that was. Would it make cool robot roaring noises? No, it doesn't make any noises, unfortunately. Turpox says, any playtest or anything coming up? Nothing on the books at the moment, but we definitely will have some stuff that we want to test in the not too horribly distant future. Wouldn't that make you a loving cyborg? You don't know what's inside me, boy. Was it the, what is it, the 5000 T5000 models? Did you just? Yeah, I guess that's a good clip. Barrow's like, huh? Yeah, I set myself up for that one. That buzzing sound as I sit here, clearly a robot. That's Keith's robot whirring noise. It's just robot whirring noise, guys. Mitch McDonald, retractable cocaine nail. I would be an 80s robot. Later on, after the games in early access, later on, you guys are all mad at Nick for him not modifying your class to be exactly the way you want it. There's gonna be there's so much VOD material, you're gonna take it out on me. I already know it's coming. I can already imagine all of the photoshopped images, the clips, the video edits, the AI. At that point, AI is going to be fantastic. Fix your game, Sean. Yeah. It'll definitely be my fault. I'm hoping that there's enough the CRSR support emails. Hey, oddly enough, we are working on customer service tools as we speak. Zilla said some of the lights are currently disabled during APV iteration, so it's a bit darker, and some ambient lighting calling attention to areas missing. Oh, no worries. I just came in to see if you could just get a little quick glimpse of it in progress. But it'll really be shown off better later, I think. Especially once the textures are in as well. We're gonna have a $7,000 extra unplayable early access playtest, right? Only if we can get 100,000 of you to commit to it. If I could possibly get 100,000 of you to send me $7,000 for early access, pre access, without letting the team know, then I'd be good. I'd be good. I would totally, absolutely not even disappear into the hills of Montana. Yeah, so we'll come back. We'll look at this later. On that note, I think I'm probably going to disappear for tonight as well. So what we'll do is we'll raid. Dark Inside said, I think I can gaslight the community into that. If you can gaslight the community into that one, then I'll give you 10%. We're already trying to screw over the team. Yep. I will throw down a smoke bomb and disappear. I will turn into a cloud of bats, and that will be the last you've ever seen of me. I'm playing the long game. You guys are like, oh my god, they're so nice. They haven't taken any of our money. Did you guys just give us permission to raise capital? All right. You've been hoodwinked by this charlatan. Oh, little do you know. I'll show you a picture. I'll show you an NFT of the picture of my house in the mountains. Sorry first. You just got home. I'm wrapping up because it is 11 p.m. and I'm going to have to get up again at like 5:30. I didn't... The stuff in Night Harbor I think is going to be better shown off later when we're further along. So I started looking at it, I was like, you know what? Let me come back in here in a future stream. Guys, thanks for being here. We're going to raid Zach in a minute. And yeah, but I like to say goodnight to folks before I leave you. So if you are interested in seeing some art, if he's still there, we'll raid him in a second. But if not, if you've been sticking around for 3 hours and want to take a break, hey, understand as well. Good seeing everybody. I will see you on Friday as usual time. We'll see. Maybe we'll have some more team playtests going on then. Maybe we'll work on something else. But in the meantime, you guys have a nice Thursday. I will say goodbye to a bunch of you and then we'll pop over to Zach. So, Byro, good talking to you. Nerve-wrecked, class and cool. Thanks. Zarkin, see ya. Chat Solo. Yeah, there you go, Chat Solo. Saying bye to the chat guild. Have a great evening, buddy. Dargus. Good night, Dargus. You are the best Dargus I know. Loophole, see you. Quixana. You're very welcome. Thanks for being here. Justin Beard, see you, buddy. Sir Pock. See you, Bill. Thanks for the question. Dragon. Drew ATX. Lich, I'll see you in Discord. See you, Katie. Good night, Nick. All the best, buddy. Be thinking about you. Keith, see ya. MMO Pug. Take care. Ciao, IdaFab. Alright, if that's the majority of you, let's see if we can find Zach and let's raid him real quick. Search filter. And it is the brushed. Let's start the raid. Starting. Raid now.